Welcome to the Big Idea podcast, where we focus on food. My name is Andrew Ive. I'm the host and founder of Big Idea Ventures. Today we'll be talking to Maya Milk, a company that is creating bio-natural products in the dairy and milk space using precision fermentation. Look forward to the conversation. Hope you enjoy it too. Please do like and subscribe. Love to engage more with you and let you know when the new podcasts are coming down. Many thanks. Hi Murat, this is Andrew from the Big Idea podcast. Welcome to our conversation today. Welcome to the podcast. How are you, sir?
Hi Andrew, thanks for having me. I'm doing great, actually. Prepared for the holidays. It's been a marathon past 5 months during the accelerator program with Big Idea Ventures, and now preparing to take a break, actually.
Me too. I'm really looking forward to the holidays. So why don't we start off by who is Murat? Who are you? What are you doing? What are you up to? What's the story, Morning Glory?
Yes. So I started off my career as a software developer back in early 2000s in San Francisco. I worked as a software programmer in the financial industry, and for about at least a decade, I've been working with software and mobile, and after then, I decided that I wanted to do biotech. And at the time, there were talks of biotech boom in early 2000s in the Bay Area, which never happened, and we just kept on waiting and waiting. And interesting, just for the past 5 years, a lot of progress has happened in biotech. And when I heard that actually food tech is utilizing biotech and a lot of progress that's been made in those technologies, it sounded like it's a great opportunity. So that's how I actually pivoted from software to biotech, and eventually ended up in food industry and look for opportunities where we can utilize biotechnology to create novel ways of producing food. And yes, that's how we ended up making Maya Milk.
Okay, so software developer, Silicon Valley. You decided you wanted to change to biotech from software. What was driving that sort of? Was it about doing something more interesting? Was it, I want to make money? Like, what made you sort of go from, being in what is the software capital of the world, or, I'm sure there are people screaming at the audio right now for, no, it's not, it's somewhere else. But, arguably one of the software capitals of the world, and you're right there as a software developer, and you decide to pivot. What's driving that?
Well, the main reason was when social and digital media was taking it over, I just felt like continuously there was the same problems and those problems were, I was under impression that they were not really fixing real world problems. And not that there's anything wrong with social media or digital marketing and that, but I just felt like I just want to work in fields such as biotech, where you actually create a real or resolve a real world problem. And the pivoting point was when I read the article about Memphis meats back in 2016. It was the first time I heard that lab-grown meat was actually not an idea, but it was materializing. And when I heard about that company, I was like, that was the pivotal point. I'm like, oh, that is unbelievable. And when I heard that cultured meat was actually happening, I thought this would be the technology area that I want to be involved. And since then, I kept researching and followed up with the pioneers in the food tech industries and look for any opportunities where actually where I can work and get to know the industry better. So yes, I could say that, and in an interesting way, that also happened in Bay Area. As far as I remember, Memphis Meat was based in San Francisco. I'm sure it still is, although they changed the brand now. They're Upside Foods, but I can say yes, that was the pivotal point, and I really love the idea that that could be a transforming technology, transforming industrial animal agriculture, which has been a problem for a long time. And we know that from environmental point and also the footprint that these industrial animal agriculture has to change and transform. And when I saw that biotech is actually helping us change that, transform that, that was it. That's when I decided that I want to be involved.
Okay, I guess what I'm sort of wondering about is, were you driven to it because of it's sort of the next big problem to solve, or the next interesting thing to sort of be focused on, or are you driven towards it because of you were looking to have an impact from a climate change perspective or sort of a new food perspective? I mean, I'm not sure if that's kind of key, but always interesting to understand what's making somebody change their entire career and go in a new direction.
I can say all of them had the effect. I can say there was the technological challenge, and from an engineering perspective, to create something novel using biotech, making lab-grown meat, working at the cellular level, even at the molecular level, in terms of fermentation and genetic engineering. That technological challenge was very appealing. And on the other hand, you're resolving one of the real hard problems in the ecosystem, transforming animal agriculture. And that was also very appealing, and also the environmental footprint, and all together, I think they all amplified and complemented. So it just felt like the sweet spot, the intersection point, the common denominator, all those effects. So I can say all together really was so exciting to be working in those fields.
So you're the founder or co-founder of Maya Milk. As a software programmer, I'm guessing your educational background was not in biotech, or was it? Were you like a PhD in one of the sciences apart from computer science, or not at all?
No, I don't have biotech or biotechnology, biology background actually. Nor did I have computer science background. I studied architecture in undergrad. And after receiving my architecture degree,
right,
I moved to the United States and to get my MBA in finance. And that was my first pivot from architecture to finance, and from there to technology. And when I learned early, actually it was late 90s, that technology was used in finance and computational algorithms was actually utilized in finance. I thought, well, technology is great. So I decided that I should work in a financial startup that is using software. And I ended up working in a startup company in San Francisco. And it was financial engineering and back office systems for global banks. So that's when I got to learn about technology and software and become a software developer. And yeah, and years after working in software, biology was always in the back of my mind, because I loved biology in high school, but never had the chance to practice. And being in Bay Area, as I said, we always waited for that biotech boom because there were so much promises made. We thought that would be the transforming technologies in a lot of areas, and for the past couple of years, especially with the COVID effect, now we see that biology is actually industrialized and used in many therapies, and that has very fast and direct effect in human life.
So for those founders out there who are wanting to get involved in, this space, the future of food, biotech, especially biotech around the food space, you're sort of the poster child of somebody who didn't go do the PhD. I'm not, I guess what I'm saying is there are other ways of getting there rather than going and doing a biology degree or PhD or related. You can actually go in a much more sort of indirect, route to get there. I mean, right now, Maya milk. And we can dig into Maya milk. You've talked about Memphis meat being a sort of key stimulator for you, or kind of motivator for you. Maya milk is not a meat company, right?
That's right.
I'm guessing from the milk name. I say I'm guessing, but we invested and I know exactly what you do, so I shouldn't try and pretend I don't. But why don't you, for the sake of everybody else, take us through the Maya milk vision and what you guys are focused on accomplishing?
Well, you're right. Maya milk is not a cultivated meat company, although when I learned about all these food technologies, cellular agriculture and lab meat was the first research area that I did, actually, because cultivated meat was the thing that was making the headlines, and that's what I actually started researching. And with my molecular biologist friends, we took a deep dive in the technology and tried to learn more. But only after then I realized there are not only cultivated meat, but there's also other pillars. We know already plant-based products already proliferating in the market. And then I learned about the precision fermentation. And maybe from an engineering perspective, I thought programming microorganisms and utilizing them in precision fermentation, it just to me it was more appealing than cultivated meat. It's not that there's challenges in cultivated meat. There's tremendous challenges at biotech, but for some reason fermentation I thought was more from an engineering perspective, maybe for my software background, that programming cells, programming the genome of microbial strains, it just had that appeal to me. And from there I took some bioinformatics classes and tried to learn about how you actually reprogram a cell or a microorganism and to make it, induce it to produce any target or desired product that you wanted to produce. And so in that respect, I thought fermentation, precision fermentation particularly, had more room for genetic engineering and probably programming and helping us do computational biology. I think that would be the ultimate goal, to leverage all these technologies and do computational biology. So I thought that would be the vertical that I want to take. But I still like to see cultured meat hitting the markets and can't wait to taste it, actually.
So for someone who's sort of getting into this space for the first time, what do you mean by computational biology or manipulation of cells using computations? I want to kind of keep it at a level that everybody can get access to, so that there's not people walking away from this conversation scratching their head a little bit.
Sure. Yes. Let me tell you give an example as to what kind of computational or genome engineering we do with the precision fermentation. We're actually working with microbial strains, and these microbial strains has been existent for thousands of years, and we've been working on them even though we did not recognize them 10,000 years ago in the Neolithic era. But we actually did fermentation, and we call that traditional fermentation, which actually enhanced the food that we had back then, maybe cheese or milk, and even made it more durable and increased the shelf life, so that we could store those cheese and other dairy ingredients that were produced thousands of years ago, even though we had no clue about the microbial ecosystem back then, but we still utilize them.
So now we have in other words, we've been fermenting beer, cheese, bread, other things for hundreds and hundreds of years as a way of improving taste, texture, longevity, and so on, right?
Exactly. That's what we've been using, enhancing, and we're actually kind of getting good at it too. We had indirectly, we had them evolve, and we kind of used the directed evolution, even though we did not know about those biological processes. So those traditional methods actually worked all throughout the millennia, and now even our grandmas know how those techniques work to produce better cheese and do yogurt. And well, with the help of genome engineering, and ever since early 2000s, since we cracked the code of DNA and eventually the code of other organisms and now microorganisms, so that we know how those directed evolutions work on those microbial strains and other organisms. So now we can read the DNA, the code, and now we can actually manipulate that code and reprogram it to have it produce the desired biomolecules and target molecules that we'd like to use in food industry or cosmetics or any other food biotech areas. So yeah, I guess that's, maybe I kind of said in a more indirect way, but in the end, yes, we are working with the genome of microorganisms, and we can read the DNA and program it, and then have more effective evolutionary techniques to induce them and have them work the way we want it.
So if we, for example, can manipulate those microorganisms because we understand their DNA, are we doing that to make them produce different things? Are we doing that to make them more productive? Are we doing that to slow down a process, speed up? I'm sort of wondering what kind of things we can do by sort of tweaking the DNA of these microorganisms, and what's the kind of end. Well, I would guess it depends on, what your objective is, but what are the kind of things generally that you can do with those microorganisms by manipulating their DNA, and how does that play into what you want to accomplish specifically with Maya Milk?
Yes, well, actually, we can do all sorts of things. We can have them produce entirely new proteins or fats that the microorganism does not do natively. We can introduce new ways of synthesizing these target molecules or proteins and lipids. Or we can have the microorganism express those natively produced proteins and then have them make them more productive. So in different methods, depends on the objective as to what you like to accomplish. There are a lot of things you can do, and with the new technologies that we're currently using, such as plasmids, and now we're talking about CRISPR methods. And once those technologies are leveraged, then I can say just programming these microorganisms would even get much more easier. So in that respect, with Maya Milk, we like to have yeast strains produce milk proteins and lipids, and those milk proteins and lipids are not native to the yeast strains. We're actually borrowing them from cows and other macroorganisms. So we're introducing new genes to these microorganisms, and we have to understand their genome, and we have to make sure that they're stable and they can actually work with the foreign DNA that we're transforming to them, and have them work in a stable way and effectively, and have them produce the proteins and lipids that we desire.
So what's the elevator pitch or sort of the simple vision of Maya Milk? If someone says, what do you guys do, without going into the programming piece and the sort of the broader explanation we've had today, what's that one sentence or two that will encapsulate for everybody listening what Maya Milk wants to accomplish? or is accomplishing for that matter.
Yes. Maya Milk is from precision fermentation company producing proteins and lipids that are animal free. And in the end, we'd like to produce milk that is similar to animal milk, but without using animals. So we're trying to take the animals out of equation, yet we'd like to introduce and offer consumers a taste that is indistinguishable from animal counterparts.
So nature identical milk using precision fermentation, a process that traditionally has been used for beer and breads and brewing and other things, to create nature identical milks. And I guess from those milks, you can then go do other things as well, right? Cheese and butter and related products, correct?
Exactly. There's so many consumer-facing applications you can possibly use with these proteins and lipids. And even in dairy, there are a lot of applications, such as you say, cheese. And even cheese has so many performance criteria. You like to have cheese stretchy, or you have to have that taste and sensory properties, and you like to match that aged cheese and that sophisticated taste, and a lot of actually parameters that are involved. And as for milk, you like to have a milk that is more creamy, that is more had that mouthfeel and sensory properties. And as for other dairy products, there's so many things you can improve with the key functionalities and make them more tasty for consumers that like to try alternative dairy products and help them transition much easier way. Yeah.
So when did you begin Maya Milk?
We started experimenting back in May of 2021, which is about 6 months ago.
Right.
Before then, we did some literature research and trying to understand whether we can do this in an experimental way. And soon after, in a couple of months later, we got in a lab, and within a few months, we were able to make our proof of concept with whey protein. That is one of the prominent proteins in milk. And later on, we tried to produce casein and other fatty acids that are in milk.
So basically, you're less than a year old.
Yes.
There's three to five people in the company at this point?
Yes, we're currently 4, and next week will be 6. So 50% increase before the year end.
You're growing faster than your yeast.
Exactly.
So that's fantastic. So it's really great to speak to a company that's less than a year old, because I know where you were, 4 months ago, because that's kind of 4 or 5 months ago, because that's when we started engaging. And now in the last 4 months, you basically jumped forward about 2 years in my estimations of where you're at as a company. What do you think 2022 is? And I hate to date the podcast, because anyone listening to this in sort of 2023 is like, oh shit, this is at least a year old. But we're coming into 2022. January will be with us in a blink. What for you is 2022 all about for Maya Milk? What are you guys focused on? What do you hope to accomplish in that next 12 months?
2022, we're hoping that would be the year we actually produce what we have done so far in lab at a large scale and get closer to industrial scale. We're kind of getting bored working in the lab, and we just want to see these products actually produce at large scale and cater to the industry. And that's what we can't wait to see. And we're hoping that 2022 would be the year that we get closer to industrial scale, and that we validate that actually what we produce in lab can be extrapolated to the industry, and we can actually produce at high scale and cater to the dairy industry and make sure that our proteins are produced at large scale. So far, we were able to see them with the molecular biology tools and detect them that yes, that's there, and we were able to purify grams of these products. But yeah, from 2022, we'd like to produce by kilos, and if we're lucky, maybe by tons. Who never knows?
So, I mean, the description of what you're doing and the kind of areas you're dealing with in the beginning, you were talking about sort of computational manipulation of organisms and things like that. For someone who's not in this space, that sounds a little bit sort of intimidating or even a little bit scary. It doesn't sound very sort of farmyard and naturey and organic. Let's put it that way. Are you going to have to go through any form of regulatory approvals or any form of acceptance by the food standards or regulatory environment before you can start selling your product in large quantities? Or because brewing has been a central part of our food production now for hundreds of years, is it much easier to go through that process than one would expect?
That's a great point, actually, Andrew. I mean, yes, regulatory is that's what we'd like to initiate next year, and we're hoping that we can finalize regulatory procedures by 2023 before we go to market, because we have to get that done. But the good thing is, I know it sounds scary, and trust me, I'm also I try to eat organic, and I'm very picky in terms of food and try to be healthy as much as possible. But interesting thing is, what we're working on, these genetically engineering microorganisms and these computational techniques, these are only the processes that we're working with. These are not in the final product, and they're not the products that we're gonna consume. They are the processes, and these processes are done to produce these naturally identical products. So the end product that we're gonna consume is gonna be the same as what cow would do. So in that respect, GMOs are just used to produce these proteins and fatty acids, but they're definitely not in the end product. So we won't be consuming GMOs, but we're using these GMO techniques and organisms to produce the desired products that we'd like to consume.
So they're the tools, the nails, the hammers, the kind of processes you need to go through, but the actual output is actually nature identical to milk. So under a microscope, looking at milk, looking at your product, it should be indistinguishable.
Exactly, yes.
So then in that case, is there not a requirement for any sort of regulatory sign-off? I mean, if you can't tell the difference, if it's actually identical, why would they even have an opinion? Why would they need to have an opinion? Okay, one gets created through the processes inside of a cow. The other gets developed through the processes outside of a cow, but in some ways probably quite similar processes, maybe. So I'm wondering why the regulatory environment would need to even get involved, or is that a silly question? It's a silly question. Tell me it's a silly question.
No, that's a great question, and actually you answered it. Thank you. It's the process, I think, and that plays a major role, because in the end product is actually the same as the nature counterparts. So, but the processes is different. So far, we did not use these genetically modified organisms to produce food products before. Well, we did to a certain extent, because a lot of people don't realize, but this chymosin enzyme that is used to do cheese has been produced in similar techniques by using precision fermentation for more than a decade now, even longer. But now we're seeing these techniques used in a lot of different other areas, and a lot of different proteins and lipids that we're going to consume. So you're right, the process is definitely different. They're not these processes before was from traditional way of animal agriculture and other industries, but now these techniques are used in the lab. So we have to get these approvals for the processes that we're working with. As for the end product, it would be that would be the easiest case to prove that the end product is actually molecularly as same as the animal counterparts. So, but the good thing is there's already precedent approvals that is being designated by FDA to the products that's being fermented with precision fermentation technology. So we're hoping that we're going to get through as fast as possible, since we have the precedent, the designation is already assigned by FDA.
So you're currently, are you still in San Francisco? Where are you today?
I'm currently in Turkey. This is where we do our R&D operations.
And where is Maya Milk going to be based? Turkey?
We're going to keep our R&D lab in Turkey, and we already formed our U.S. parent company in United States, and we'd like to have operations in United States as well as Turkey.
Okay, I'm asking the question because you talked about FDA, but I know that you're a Turkish company, but you started off your career in Silicon Valley. So I was sort of, are you guys going to be joining the dots between the US and Turkey over the next year or so? It sounds like you are.
Yes, definitely.
And why is that? Why do you think that either the US or Turkey have something to contribute to this? What's the environment like in both of those locations, and how do they contribute to what Maya Milk wants to accomplish?
Well, United States is spearheading the alternative protein industry, and that's where the innovation started, and that's where innovation is progressing. So being there is crucial for Maya Milk, so we can be part of that ecosystem. And in terms of running R&D operations in Turkey, there are so many molecular biologists, scientists, biochemists like to have the opportunity to work in the field. And since I'm Turkish and I have the network here, it makes total sense to do our research and development and even collaborate with prospective scientists in the United States, most probably in Bay Area in San Francisco through my network. So I love to bridge that gap between these two countries and have Maya Milk operate in multiple countries actually. And we see that food technologies in an interesting way, unlike other technology companies, food is everywhere. You can see from multiple nations, multiple countries making progresses and making strides in food tech. And location, I don't think it should matter. And in the end, the ultimate goal is to produce food in every location, decentralize the production of food production actually, and that's the ultimate goal. And being in Turkey and United States, I think is the best way to test that.
Perfect. So I know that when we've been working together between Maya Milk and Big Idea Ventures, you've had the ability to access some of the partners that we've brought on board as part of our fund and so on. Have you engaged with any of those partners so far? Do you think they're going to be useful as Maya Milk starts to kind of focus on 2022, 2023?
Definitely, and that's what one of the aspects of working with Big Idea Ventures is your network with your limited partners, especially in the food industry. And that's what I actually enjoy so much, to get to know the industry from technology to the end product, and establishing these relationships and collaborating with your partners. That's been very helpful, and I like to carry on and connect and collaborate even more.
Perfect. So what 2022, 2023, anyone listening, what kind of help outside of the immediate organization, if anyone's listening, what kind of help would you, I say if anyone's listening, that's kind of sad, I'm assuming loads and loads, thousands of people are listening. But for those listening, what can they do for Maya Milk? What would be helpful for you?
That's a tough question, actually, because we need help in every aspect. We need help to promote the industry, to promote the field that we work in, and get help in marketing, and try to get help in introducing us to the global food industry, and in global networks, and be in the know, and that would be great. So far, we've been in the alternative protein industry, and it's actually establishing, is very, very new, and we like to be known. Actually, we like to have our voices heard, and and get help in many respects.
So let me sort of the thing that occurs to me is one, you're going to need probably more great people as you scale the business. So there's the opportunity for someone who's interested in your mission, who might have, for example, a science background or certain backgrounds, for them to reach out as potential recruits or advisors. That's probably one thing. Secondly, I'm guessing at some point in 2022 you'll be looking to raise more funds. So I'm guessing you'll want to connect with people who are interested in potentially financially getting involved in what Maya Milk's all about. Or do you have an endless supply of capital that I'm not aware of?
We're always in need money. I mean, always. That's one of the I mean, biotech is consuming so much. In any step of the way, we're gonna need money. That's certain. And yes, whomever like to invest and contribute, more than welcome. And you're right. We need mentorship. We need advisory board that is very powerful. They can help us actually establish sales and distribution channels, and we definitely have to collaborate with a lot of scientists and discuss these novel ways of producing proteins and lipids that we're currently working with. In many respects, we'd like to collaborate and get advice and mentorship.
In terms of the traditional dairy industry, what do you see their reception of Maya Milk being? Do you think some of them might see you guys as potential partners and collaborators, or is the industry seeing this as a threat? What's your experience, if any, with the industry to date?
I think the industry is very smart. They see what's happening. They see the transformation that is happening, that will happen within a decade or two, and they're preparing for that, and which is great. You see these large companies, large dairy companies, and they're collaborating with the startups. And in an interesting way, what I observe is that a lot of companies are trying to resolve these issues with third parties and startups. And the traditional way is to have these companies work in-house and resolve these problems and innovate with their resources. But it seems like we're more in a collaborative landscape that is supporting and pushing startups forward. So in that respect, it's very exciting, and you see these big brand names and big companies and food and dairy companies already actually strategizing and collaborating with the startups. So in that respect, I don't see any problems that would impede such progress. So I think there's a lot of opportunities for startups and even for the large big companies, and it's nice to see that transformation is already happening.
Perfect. So if someone wants to become either an employee of Maya, an advisor, an investor, a partner in some way, whether it's from the traditional milk industry or anywhere else, What's the best way of getting hold of you and of engaging with Maya Milk?
In any means, actually, through Big Idea Ventures, my email is there, our website is there, LinkedIn, and by any means, we'd like to have meet people in the industry and connect and collaborate.
So give us your website details right now. Give us any, the best ways of reaching out to you, so that they don't have to go to bigideaventures.com if they don't want to. So Maya Milk, MAYAMILK.com, correct?
Yes, that's our domain. And you can find us on LinkedIn,
and you have a contact
as well.
Okay, so LinkedIn, Maya Milk. Your website has a way to reach out to you guys if people want to engage?
Yes, we have our email addresses that you can connect, and also has the integration to LinkedIn profiles, so you can see our individual profiles on LinkedIn as well.
And you're fine with people just reaching out directly to you via LinkedIn and offering their support and help?
Definitely.
Awesome. When do you expect to next be in the US?
I'll be there in late March, actually. There's the Food Tech Conference in San Francisco, which I'm planning to attend. And yes, I'll be there in the conference, at Food Tech Conference, one of the retail events.
That's the Future Food Tech Conference in San Francisco, March?
Yes, that's right. Future Food Tech Conference.
Perfect. So if anyone wants to engage with Murat Badur, you can do so via mayamilk.com. You can also do it via Big Idea Ventures. Also, within the Maya Milk website, the LinkedIn profiles of the employees and key team members are all up there, so you can engage directly that way too. Any last thoughts for either entrepreneurs or people excited about whether it's precision fermentation or these kind of new techniques of producing very sort of traditional foods? Any last parting thoughts or words?
I think the whole industry eventually, especially the technology aspect, is going to be multidisciplinary. So we'd like to work with engineers, scientists, biochemists, chemists in a lot of different fields, and that's what makes it very exciting. This is not only about food science, but this is actually a collaboration of multidisciplinary scientific methods. So in that respect, we'd love to expand our network. We'd like to work with food industry, food scientists in many different fields. And yes, and we need to collaborate because the problem is very complicated and challenging. So yeah, we need help from every industry.
Perfect. And indeed, not just science. If you're thinking about scaling this, you're going to start getting into kind of areas of production, production engineering, etc. And then obviously there's always the financing required to move towards that scale up. Then you've got distribution and all sorts of other things. So, it's not just scientists. It's going to be multidisciplinarian across every area of business, I would imagine, because this is going to be a multi-trillion-dollar industry ultimately.
Definitely, it's huge. I mean, the whole food industry is going to transform and change within a couple of decades, and that's coming fast. What's exciting is just a couple of days ago in national Turkish TV, I heard that animal agriculture is about to change and that it is no longer sustainable, and that's being heard in national news in Turkish TV. And Turkey is an agriculture economy as well, and very traditional in that respect. So even here, all around the world, you can see that people are aware of this change and it's happening. And you're right, definitely. I mean, a lot of industrial engineers, bioprocess engineers, and process engineers. Yes, I mean, there's going to be a lot of new fields to work with, and a lot of disciplines going to contribute to this change and help transform the animal agriculture and future of food. It's happening.
It is. The one thing I love about the story is people will often see change as threatening. We've got farmers and people involved in in the sort of more rural, more traditional areas who sometimes see what's happening in these areas, in your areas and other areas like it, as threatening. But new jobs, new ways of developing more traditional foods, those places that have been the rural food producing centers of many, many countries will continue, in my opinion, to be the food producing centers way into the future. They'll just do it in new ways, new tools, new tools, new processes, but they will continue to be critical to keeping us alive and sustaining our population. So not threatening, just a change is sort of how I see it. But I'm sure there'll be people who want to kind of write in and tell me how wrong I am at saying something like that.
I don't think so, because the threat is not competing industries, actually, because the threat is the climate, and it's obvious. So we need to collaborate. That's it. I mean, this is not about competition among other industries or companies. This is more than that. So we need to join forces against the climate threats.
And evolve, and it's an evolution of the industry. It's not a new industry, a different industry. It's the same industry using new tools, new ways of doing things.
Exactly, just transforming the technologies.
So Murat, appreciate your time today. I will encourage anyone who's listening to reach out to you. I know you're a very friendly chap, and your team are very open to collaborators, supporters, advisors, funders, etc. So thanks for your time today. And that's it. That was the Big Idea podcast, where we focus on food. Another one in the can. Thank you so much, sir.
Thanks, Andrew. Thanks again for having me.
Thanks for coming along to the conversation today. I hope you found it as interesting and enjoyable as I did. If there are people you think we should talk with, that you want to hear from, that you think would be great guests on the podcast, please do reach out to us. Please do like and subscribe so that we can let you know when the next podcasts are coming. That's it. Amazing things happening in the world of food, lots of innovation, lots of magic being created by entrepreneurs, especially entrepreneurs in combination with some of the better corporate players in this space. We need both. We need the innovators. We also need the ability to scale those innovations so that we can have the sustainability impacts we're looking for and not have to kind of give up on performance or taste or any of the things we've grown up loving about our food. So that's it. Hope you had a good time. Hope you enjoyed it. Please do like and subscribe and add your comments. Until next time.